Justin Haskins is with us now. He is the co-author of The Great Reset and Dark Future, both of my New York Times best-selling books, and also Research Center Director for the Heartland Institute Socialism Research Center. How are you?
Good morning, Glenn.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm in Stu's chair. We threw Stu out of the studio.
Yeah.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
I'm in the chair, and I got to tell you, this feels good. This feels right.
Don't get too comfy. You have also brought with you Bob Rommel. Bob is the Florida state representative who has been fighting against ESG in Florida, and Florida has the model.
Yes.
Do you think?
Oh, yes. Yes. As you know, back when we put the Great Reset book together, and we realized that ESG was the key to the entire Great Reset puzzle.
Yeah.
And you and I thought, this is pretty depressing because no one's going to do anything about
Correct.
it. We were convinced no one was going to do anything about it. Then the book came out, and states across the country started enacting various ways of fighting back against ESG. But in many of those cases, we've had 14 different states that have put some kind of anti-ESG legislation together. Most of them are focused on making sure that government pensions and government contracts are not being used to promote ESG causes.
Sure.
That's really good, okay? That's really great.
It's a start.
That's a start. But if you really want to protect people, you have to protect consumers. You have to protect the individual. And the only place where they have actually enacted a law that does this, that protects financial individuals from financial institutions promoting ESG, is in the state of Florida. And Bob Rommel, who's here with us today in the studio, is the champion of that cause. He's the guy who led the charge in the House, and he is a personal hero. He really is. He's a personal hero. So thank you for being here, Bob.
Bob, thank you for standing up for this. I don't know why more states won't protect the consumer. They'll protect all the big guys, but it's the consumer. It's the little person when they go to try to get a loan, the farmer that tries to go get a loan and he's rejected because he's not doing everything he's supposed to do ESG-wise. And that consumer will never be told it was because of ESG, so they can't sue them. They can't do anything about it.
Well, Glenn, thank you. And Justin, thanks for those kind words. I don't know if anybody's ever called me a champion, but but thank you. As an ex-banker, I know that if you control the capital, you make all the rules and you do everything. And I started looking at ESG, some of the ESG rules that some people were telling me about 2 years ago. And then the incoming speaker, I told him about, we have to do something about this in Florida. We need to protect our citizens. To me, it's just another form of discrimination.
It is.
And as an ex-banker, when we did mortgages for folks, we couldn't discriminate based on race, color, creed, political belief. They got mortgages based on their ability to pay and their income, period.
That's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be. And that's
Right.
how our country was built. And
you always, when the government messes with our banks and tells them that you have to consider other things, it creates a system that is false, and it creates the bubble that we had in 2008. That was the United States government telling banks, you have to make more loans in these ways, which the people couldn't afford, but the government was demanding the banks do it.
And luckily that we had in Florida, we had a speaker and we had a governor that wanted to do something because the pushback was huge. And it was pushback on multiple sides. So Democrats, and I believe it was a Democrat that came up with ESG, they're great at coming up with these new words and these new terminology. So the first thing is environment, environment. So listen, everybody wants clean water, clean air. So they said, well, we have to do this to save the environment because if not, we're all going to die. And I don't know if anybody's listening, but we're all going to die eventually anyway.
Yeah, we're all dying, just slower.
Just slower. So then the social governance, and I go, what is social governance? And if you can look at a couple of the greatest American iconic companies in the world that social governance has destroyed their, value of their companies.
Disney
and Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
You would think both of
Coca-Cola is really bad too.
Oh, yeah.
And so me as a business person, whenever I hired somebody, I hired the best, the brightest, and the people that actually show up to work.
Yes.
And I never looked at their race or their political beliefs. I just wanted to hire the best. And that's how our country was built. Our country was built on access to capital and people like Thomas Edison. I know you have an issue with Thomas Edison.
Thank you for knowing that. Yes.
I know you do. And we could debate whether that was the best technology or not. But we need to make sure that the next inventors have access to capital. So whatever the next great invention that's going to help civilization is available. And when I saw what was happening, a friend of mine has a multinational company, and he was showing me a worksheet that he would have to fill out to get capital. And it had nothing to do with his business or the ability to pay. It was based on how many transgender people do you have working here? How much carbon footprint do you have? What are you using to mitigate your carbon footprint? And I said, there's something wrong here. And you know what? In the end, it's going to hurt civilization. And in Florida, we wanted to make sure we did something to protect our citizens.
Okay, so now does this actually, if I'm a citizen and I go to a bank and I feel they've judged me on ESG, does this cover me as a citizen of Florida?
Yeah, so there's no doubt that the law, and they're going to challenge it. We highly suspect banks are going to fight this because they wanted to be able to discriminate against people. That's what banks want the ability to do, and they're being pushed by the left and big asset managers. But yes, that's what the law is designed to do. The law is designed to make sure that if you are being discriminated against, that you have an ability to file a complaint with the government so that the government makes sure that that doesn't happen. Now, one of the problems that we have, and Rep. Rommel is trying to address this going forward, is how do we even know that that's what's going on? How do we know the bank? Because the bank might not tell you. The bank might just deny you the loan and never tell you why.
Correct.
And so we need to figure out a way to make sure that people know why they're being denied access to bank accounts and things like that. So do you want to talk a little bit about that plan that you have?
Sure. We know what we did. We knew it was going to get challenged, and we had tremendous amount of pushback from people I didn't even understand why they were pushing back. Matter of fact, one of the second in charge of BlackRock came to visit me, the commerce chair in Florida, which was kind of cool, but he read my background. He goes, it seems like you're more of a libertarian. You're a free market guy. Why are you interfering with business? And I said, it sounds like you're interfering. And we actually had a great conversation. And he was talking about, this is just free market business. And I said, well, let's talk about ESG. And I said, did you fly down here to visit me on a private plane? And he said, yeah. Matter of fact, I go, did you pick the most diverse pilot or did you pick the best pilot? He goes, that doesn't matter. I go, no, it does matter. I go, if you truly believe in this stuff, you'll make the most diverse pilot. And God forbid you're ever going to get sick. You're going to get the most diverse surgeon. But it's not. This is about you controlling the markets, controlling capital, controlling people, making people have fewer decisions and maybe buying some bad technology. And, they kept pushing and pushing. The banks came back to me and said, oh, you're interfering with us. But you know what? They were all,
it is so bad. This banking, it's a cartel that they have going against, against our representatives and our legislatures in America. This cartel comes in so heavy-handed with loads of money and credibility and tries to stop people like you.
And we had to be careful the way we crafted the bill, because if you use ESG as a form of scoring, you won't be able to, issue Florida bonds. You won't be able to be access to qualified public deposits, our pension funds. But we also had to make sure that if everybody did it, we were able to write checks in the state of Florida to pay our bills too.
Right.
So there was a balance there, and we had to make sure that there was other access, and there's not quite enough for $300 billion in local community banks. So I think we're in a good place there. But over the summer, one of our local businesses in Florida, Dr. Mercola, who owns a very big supermarket, but he also owns a multinational natural health vitamin company. And over the summer, I get a call from one of his representatives. He goes, Rep. Rommel, can you help us? And I go, I'll try. What's up? And he said, well, all of the managers and multiple employees from the Mercola markets been debanked. Their bank, which was JP Morgan Chase, gave them letters and say, find new banks. We're not going to bank with you anymore. So I talked to a JP Morgan.
Hey, hang on just a second. How rare? Because I'd never heard of being debanked before, unless you were like Al Capone. I had never heard of that. How rare did that used to be?
I would think never, because banks wanted you to keep your money in your non-interest-bearing accounts and pay late fees and things like that to earn income. So we looked into it a little bit, and I talked to their rep, and they said, well, Bob, he could be doing money laundering or some suspicious activity, and by the law, we're obligated to debank them. I go, his entire workforce? And they couldn't tell me because, I'm not authorized to hear this information. And again, the state of Florida, if you're running arms or fentanyl, we don't want you banking either.
Right.
But we also believe in due process in the state of Florida. I don't trust you as the bank, and I don't trust you as some federal agency to say this person needs to be debanked, because I remember Operation Chokehold when they told payday loans and arms dealers, I think that was,
Obama era.
Obama era 2013, Operation Choke Point, that you can't do any banking business. So I don't trust the federal government agencies, and I don't trust the banks that are colluding with ESG, with our federal agencies, to bank them. So what I'm going to try to do this year, assuming it's passed, that if you're a bank and you debank one of our Florida citizens, a business or an individual, first of all, you're going to have to tell Florida, you're going to have to tell the Division of Financial Services, hey, I debanked Dr. Mercola, and this is why I did it. Then we as a state, keep it in private, we'll investigate. If we felt that you did it in bad faith, well, we're going to fine you, and you're not going to do business in Florida.
Good for you.
And then the individual that was harmed, we're going to allow them to have a private right of action against that bank.
Excellent. Excellent. That is fair. That's
Was I
fair.
right?
Yeah,
I was
that's
right.
fair.
This is amazing.
This is what this is. By the way, this is what is it? Fair access.
Yes,
is what it
that's
is.
the shorthand.
Shorthand is fair access. There's many states that have passed now anti-ESG laws, but it is fair access that gives the power to the individual to be able to get the information and to sue if it's wrong information or based on ESG. And you guys have led the way.